just pulled up this property, and if you look down into that creek there, see that big stump there? 30 years ago, or roughly in say 1992, I was cutting wood on this property for 5 years or so, and the guy in the house there, he asked me to go down and cut that tree down and cut the tops off it, and it's hard to believe 30 years later the stump's still there from that white box tree. So he's never come back and cut her up. But yeah, I took some white and yellow box off this place. But is there any money in cutting wood? No, a lot of hard work, but hi guys, thanks for tuning into the channel. Just a few weeks ago I was at this exact spot, and they hadn't had any rain here in Australia for years virtually. Look at it now. And I'll head over to where I was. This is the place where I used to cut wood on years back. Look at the grass here now. Have to be a bit careful where I walk, because this place used to be lousy with brown snakes, and get bit with one of those, it could be a one-way trip, and there used to be some really nasty looking guys on this property. So I'll probably put up a video of when I walked to this fence line only about 2 or 3 weeks back, when this place was totally bare. And if you look at it now, like they've had a lot of rain out here. Look how green it is. So if I get my old video up, so it was all dry in here, and when you look back through these paddocks now, I bet you the owner now is really smiling, because look at the grass everywhere. Even when I was here a few weeks back, probably it was only 3 weeks back, this was just totally bare. So I don't know how much rain they've had in this area, but a huge amount by the looks of it, because that was that tree I was telling you about. I don't think I could zoom in before, but that was that tree I cut down 30 years back. Coming in like there. Yesterday I did a report, or the 5,000 kilometre report on this bike since I purchased it from new, and because I was out in the other side of where I live, wind conditions were really strong. I was using a different sort of a camera, and I was using the internal microphone on that camera. The audio came out pretty crappy, so once I put it up, you know, like the response wasn't crash hot, so I had to end up pulling it down, because like I said, it was pretty crappy. So I thought I'd come out to this spot in the forest. Very quiet out here. I'm using the external mic now, hopefully it'll be a bit better. So here we are out here, and here's my 4-month owner's review, where I've travelled 5,000 kilometres on the bike, and give you a bit of an idea what it's like. So far I've travelled like I said, 5,000 kilometres on the bike from new. I purchased this bike in Sydney, Australia for roughly $10,200, and as of now I haven't had any problems with the bike whatsoever, apart from a couple of minor niggles. So as far as the bike goes, it's been running really well, never had any problems, it hasn't let me down, and its reliability so far has been 100%. So it's a bike you can just come out, turn the key, give it a minute or two to warm up and get on it and ride it wherever you want to. And in that case, at times I've ridden it up to around about a good 200 kilometre runs at times, haven't been any further, roughly about 200, 220, something like that, and it's been very reliable on that side of things. Far as gas mileage goes, I find I get around about 30 kilometres per litre. So, you know, I average, you know, like I make a habit now of setting me trip meter to each time I fill up, and I work on running around 300 kilometres. Once I get the 300 kilometre mark, I make a habit of filling up after that one, because I find that the fuel gauge is not what you call accurate, and it can give false readings from, you know, say once you've travelled halfway, you know, after you get around a couple hundred kilometres, like one day it can look full, next day you can get on there and it'll turn it on, it'll be half. So it's not really reliable at all. So don't count on the fuel gauge to get you anywhere you want to go in a hurry, because one time it could let you down and you could find yourself walking. So my advice is don't trust the fuel gauge. Brakes, the ABS braking system is really good. So I've never had any trouble with it not working. I've never had any indication that the brakes have gone on me in any way. So once you apply those stoppers, I find that they're bedded in nicely and they perform well. I've heard reports where the Pirelli Phantom tyres have been a bit of a problem for some people, and by what I mean some problems, some people have experienced front end wobbles on these bikes, and they first thought it was to do with the suspension of the bikes or somewhere in the steering or the front end, but it turned out there has been faulty batches of tyres with these, and the problem with the wobble has come in between 50 to 80 kilometres an hour. So if you've got one that's got a wobbly front end, it may be worth taking it back to the dealer, and if he's been trying to fix it out, tell him to think about replacing the front tyre and see if that solves your problem. I was checking my tyres yesterday, probably never give you a really good look at it, but I checked them for depth after 5,000 kilometres of travel. The front one has still got roughly 4 millimetres of depth from the centre of the tyre, and the rear one comes in at 3.5. So everything's good that way. I haven't done any really, you could say, clean-ups on this bike, so this is it from original. Never been cleaned, so as far as that goes, that's how it looks. I've done one chain adjustment since new, and that was roughly at 500 kilometres. After I done the oil and filter change myself, I did the valve adjustment. So from there to now, it's done pretty close to 5,000 kilometres, and so I must have done it right the first time, so everything's working right there. So I haven't done anything there, and at the same time I went over all the fasteners, tightened them all up, and as far as the chain goes, I also adjusted that once it there. You can see I haven't really cleaned up anything on the back wheel or anything like that, but I did one chain adjustment at 500 kilometres. So looking at a 6-sided nut on the back of these, you could say I tightened it 2 sections of that nut. So in other words, I tightened it 1/3 of a turn either side to pull it out, and after that there's no more adjustment required since I did that. But I do oil the chain regularly. Probably around the head of the motor you can see a little bit of surface dust. The cover there, when I put the gasket back on, I used the grease on there just to hold it in place, because they're a bit tricky putting these gaskets back on. So when I put that back on, used a bit of grease. Actually, after a while it melts when you're out there running around, and then when that happens, well, naturally leaves a bit of a film there, and if you don't wash it off, well, dust collects on it, and it just shows a little bit of surface dust around there, and on the other side too, but no big deal. The main niggle I had with this bike was it had a tendency to hit neutral from 5th to 6th gear change, and I tried numerous things. The 500 mark, there was a mention other people had had neutral problems there, so I went from an oil change at 500 k's and I went to Silcoline oil, and I thought that might help, but that didn't really help much at all. So the next, I went from Silcoline from 500 to 3500. Like I said, that didn't help much at all. So the next move was to move the gear change down to from a 31 height to 29.5 centimetres, like from dead level. That helped a little bit, and then I went to a clutch adjustment from the handlebars, and I think that helped quite a bit there too. So when I ran at that 3,500 k's on the Silcoline, like I said, it didn't help that much, so I dumped that, and then I went to a semi-synthetic oil in the Penrite, the Australian brand Penrite oil. I do find that oil's alright, so the Silcoline was very expensive here, $140 delivered for a 4 litre container, where I think I got the Penrite oil, which I've got in the bike now, and it's performing alright for around about $50 Australian. Looking back over the bike, like in a riding position, I do find I get a little bit of vibe in the bars at around about 4,000 revs, just a mile bar, nothing like you'd expect to get on, say, a classic 500 for example. I do ride with foam grips, and at the moment I'm waiting for the arrival of a set of bar risers. These are the better quality bar risers, which sort of come up and then come up 1 inch, and then I think they move 1 inch towards you, but I'm just waiting for stock for those to arrive. But I think the bar risers on this bike would be really a good idea, because it would pull the bars a bit closer towards you, and you wouldn't have to reach over quite so much to grab the bars. The other thing I've done on eBay, I purchased this 650 Continental GT touring seat, and that wasn't a bad deal. I think that came in at $190 Australian, delivered to Australia with a free oil filter, and that's not a bad seat to ride on. If you said, is it any better than the standard? Really, I don't think there's nothing much wrong with the standard seat, so overall, you know, like, it's just more cosmetics, and it probably looks a bit better, or I think it looks a bit better, but, you know, I still think there's nothing wrong with the standard seat. I've also placed a factory high screen on it. That cost me about, I think, $80, $85 Australian delivered. Once again, an eBay purchase. It appears to work really well, helps cut through the wind. I noticed, like, if I took that off now when I'm out along the road on a windy day, you could really feel the wind hit your chest. Screen on, you sort of take that belt off the chest and it sort of just goes up a little bit higher and over your helmet, and I think the bike glides through the air a little bit smoother. So if you ask do I think it's a good purchase, yes. I've also ordered the small screen, and it should be here shortly, where I'll do a back-to-back comparison between the large and the small. If you ask me what the headlights are, well, I really don't know. I've never had this bike out at night time, so as a rule I don't ride motorcycles at night, so I can't really comment if the headlights are any good at night time or not. They appear fairly bright when you've got them running at daytime. People appear to notice you. The horn's good on it too, so you know that side of it's not bad. And overall, this chrome version of the bike isn't a bad looking bike. I can't really comment on how the bike runs too up, because I've never ever had another pillion on the back or anything like that, so it's really only a single runner. What I can say, that out along the road it performs really well sitting on 100 kilometres an hour, pulls hills nicely. Most cases when I'm out along the road I really have to change gear, so if I'm out zooming along the roads around where I live, I can pull most hills in top gear and it'll run along quite easily at 100 kilometres or 60 mile an hour. You know, if you want to go a little bit quicker, it'll set the pace a bit quicker, and you can move along a little bit faster there. So the big question you would say now, you wouldn't believe it, you sit here and here comes a car. So I suppose the next question you would say, would I recommend this bike to a person thinking of buying a Royal Enfield? I think as far as Royal Enfields go, what's out there at the moment, if you're going off-road work or something, a Himalayan would be hard to beat. If you want to do off-road and a bit of sealed riding. But if you just want to do straight out sealed riding, then see, and I have had a Himalayan too, I think this bike's really hard to beat because it's 100% reliable. And I really think this is one of the best Enfields that Enfield have made, so that's one way to look at it. So if you're in the market to buy one of these bikes, at this stage, like I said, I've travelled 5,000 kilometres. I've travelled it trouble-free, never had a problem with it. Everything's good about the bike, and I think if you're in the market to buy one of these bikes, I could thoroughly recommend it. And you know, I'm going to run a report on this bike every 2,500 kilometres, so if you're interested, it's always a good idea to call back, subscribe, or stay tuned, and you'll know how this bike's performing for the long haul. And at this stage, I'm seriously thinking of buying one of these in the Baker's Express colour too. So if I'm thinking of buying another one, and I think they are pretty good bikes, and that would be something for you to think about, to say, well, if he's got one and thinking of buying another one too, he must think they're pretty good. And that should be all the more reason why you could go and check one out for yourself. Anyway, I think that would conclude my 5,000 kilometre mini review on this bike. And like I said, it's been a trouble-free bike. And once again, thanks for calling in, taking a look, and I hope you enjoyed this bit of info on the bike. And if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, and hope to catch up with you at a later date. Once again, catch you later.